talk about the journey that he's taken through the series, that you've taken with him, and also for yourself personally, what kind of road you've had that Twilight's changed with your life?
I think in the broadest terms about Edward's journey was, I mean, right from the beginning I just ignored the fact that he was a vampire, basically ignored the fact that he was 108, except to use for kind of metaphorical purposes. And you're just left with a kind of troubled teenager who, and it's a really simple story of him getting content with himself. I mean, and he gets content by finding a woman and having a child, which is like, I guess how a lot of kind of troubled guys kind of balance themselves out. At least that's the hope, anyway.
Well, Bill Condon mentioned this idea of the self-loathing that you told him you've been playing for the first 3 movies, that had never really been presented as a element, you know, in the actual, I guess, plot of the first 3 films.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that would be the key ingredient to Edward's character. I mean, he's a 108-year-old guy, and he's never achieved anything he's wanted to achieve. I mean, he's been he's been stuck in adolescence. I mean, when you're an adolescent, you think you think nothing is given to you. I mean, you think that everything's unfair, blah, 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 and he's been living like that for 100 years. So, I mean, it's, you know, you'd eventually get to the point of desperation. And I guess it wasn't, I mean, it's very difficult to portray that and portray a love story at the same time, unless you want to make a very different movie. I mean, and so I was trying to push for that angle at the same time, but, and it's funny that Bill was the first person to say, like, I want to put this at the forefront, because Breaking Dawn is probably the happiest that it's been in the whole series. So it was like the wrong moment to use it. But we did a couple of flashback scenes and stuff like that, which kind of reflect his anger, I guess, when he first turned into a vampire.
And then for your own personal journey these past 4 years, with what this role's done with you? For you?
I guess just presented, like, I mean, a whole variety of obstacles in terms of trying to grow and figure out who you want to be. I mean, it's, you know, it's like having a very complicated maze to go through, and you're also being propelled by some kind of jet as well, and trying to figure out how to go through a maze at the same time. And I still kind of feel like it hasn't really slowed down. I'm still trying to figure out where I'm at. But it's been fun, and you kind of, you know, it's totally bizarre to me. I mean, I didn't even, I mean, I've said it for years, and I didn't even know if I was going to continue acting before this happened, and now I have much more of a drive and passion for it than I ever did before. So.
Rob, the music is so important to these movies. What's on your iPod right now? Any particular songs on your playlist?
I always sound so pretentious.
Please do, get pretentious.
Oh man, I hope I can remember some people I know. There's this band called Pato, like this 70s band, which I really like, and a pianist called Armin Jamal. I can't remember anyone else.
I'm going to have to look those up because I don't know how to spell it.
That's so stupid. And Katy Perry.
Can you talk a little bit about your last moments of, over here? Hi. Can you talk a little bit about your last moments of ever playing Edward? We heard it was in the woods, and then Christian made a great joke, and also about the scene where you finally turn her.
She made a great joke in the woods.
They should have picked Jacob. She ran off, so they should have picked Jacob.
Oh, yeah. Oh, she's done that throughout the whole series. Sorry, what was the second part of the question?
And the second part about turning her and that scene with the baby being born.
Yeah, the scene, the birth scene. I mean, I read the script before I read the book on this, and it was the first time I'd done that, and so I read that scene, being kind of astonished that, I mean, I knew it was kind of crazy, the story, but I couldn't really believe that it was actually written down and we were going to do it, and it was terrifying going into it. But it ended up being this kind of, I don't know, it was one of the most incredible scenes to do in this movie. I mean, there's definitely a kind of R-rated, or maybe NC-17 rated version of a few scenes in this movie. But it was just incredible to do that. Like after having, because of the violence and stuff in it, it gave you a lot of freedom in the scene, and having every character so desperate, it became something very, very different. I mean, especially for Edward, who's always held back and is a pacifist and is very objective and logical about everything. To do this thing when you're suddenly playing Edward stuck between a kind of emaciated dummy's legs chewing through a placenta and getting cream cheese all over your face and strawberry jam, and then pulling out the 3-week-old baby after. It's like something out of Buñuel movie or something.
In your last moments of playing Edward, what was that like for you?
I mean, the very last moments I was in St. Thomas in the Caribbean, just on the beach, and it was kind of incredible. It was like the only time I'd ever experienced anything like that in a Twilight movie. But I think the last scene with everyone, it was kind of horrible because it was freezing cold. It was after 2 weeks of night shoots, and I think everyone just sort of scarfed it afterwards. Like, okay, that's the end of Twilight, and it was 5 in the morning. It was freezing cold and pouring with rain, and it's like, at least it was kind of symbolic of how a lot of the movies were shot. They're just freezing cold, pouring with rain all the time. But yeah, we kind of. I mean, it still hasn't really. It doesn't really feel like the end of it yet. Because the press tours become so huge and you're always being asked about it all the time, it really feels like this feels like part of the process to me of making the movies. And so until the last one's released, I don't really feel like I've finalized anything.
Hi, this side. Hi. At the wedding scene, I could feel that Edward had feeling like a mixed feeling, like a nervous, but it's super happy. So have you ever had kind of similar experience? Super nervous, but super happy?
Yeah, I mean, a lot. I mean, I think it's whenever, I think pretty much whenever you're really genuinely happy, you're also kind of terrified that it's like, you're kind of out of control. So you're always a little bit nervous. I think that's the perfect level of happiness when you're kind of terrified at the same time. But yeah, I think I felt that many times.
When did you have this kind of feeling recently?
God, I can't even think. It's kind of lame, but I was like walking around in Paris the other day, and actually that's a terrible idea. I can't remember a specific example, sorry.
Hi, you've done all these huge franchise films like Potter and obviously Twilight. What do you like doing, really? Like the independent little film, or do you like the big films? You know, are you gunning for Harrison Ford's record of doing every franchise that's out there? Or, you know, do you see yourself as an action star? What's next for you?
I don't know. I mean, I really approach things almost the exact same way. I mean, until you're really on the set, smaller movies are great because you don't have to argue with so many people all the time. But really, I kind of like arguing, so there's a balance either way. But I mean, with independent movies, it's nice to see when a director. Sorry, I just noticed your dog. I'm boring him to sleep. There's like it's nice to see a director who's kind of so pleased that they. I mean, it's so rare then when someone's given someone the money to do something, when they let them do it. Like I just worked with David Cronenberg, and just to see him, he's left alone by everyone. Because I mean, obviously he's proved himself time and time again. But I mean, it's really strange. I've never really worked with someone with absolutely no pressure from anywhere else apart from themselves and from the environment which they've chosen to work in. And it's kind of nice to know that it's not, the pressure is not caused by compromises or anything like that. It's just, you know, they've taken the responsibility on themselves, and it's really up to them to make it what they want. And people get a lot more pleasure out of it than, you know, having to sometimes give up a lot just because there's so much money involved or something like that, or you're working on a franchise or something like that when you're trying to. You have to think about the audience, and you have to think about the previous movies. But it's a different thing in some ways.
You talked a little bit about wanting to get back into music at some point. I'm curious if you've been recording anything, if music is a priority still for you. Can you sort of talk about that?
Yeah. I record stuff a lot, but I don't know if I don't know. There's something about doing movies. I can handle a criticism because you can always blame it on someone else. There's hundreds of people to blame it on. But with music, I mean, as soon as you put something out there, you're basically. I mean, really as well, because everyone judges it. If you're an actor and you've kind of made some money and stuff, you're basically only putting an album out there for people to judge it. And I don't necessarily want people to judge it, nor care what they say, but also I know that if I put an album out, the day it comes out I'm going to be on the internet looking at stuff and I'll probably shoot myself. So I don't know if it's worth shooting myself over.
Is there a possibility of you putting it out under an alias or another name?
I mean, I kind of like the idea of that, but I don't know. It's also very embarrassing if you get caught.
Hey Ron, over here. Angela Dawson, Entertainment Newswire. I wanted to ask you about, you guys were immortalized earlier today, and I just wanted to find out how do you feel about having your handprints, footprints, I'm not sure which ones you did, probably both. How do you feel about that? And can you remember the first time, your first experience here in Hollywood and what it was like for you? And what does this mean, this mean to you today?
It's kind of incredible. I mean, I stayed at the Magic Castle like the first few times I came to LA when I was like 17, and I used to walk down there all the time. I kind of had no idea that Hollywood Boulevard would look the way that it does and stuff. But I mean, and that was totally unemployable and everything. I mean, it wasn't even in the realm of anything, any kind of understanding, and it still isn't. I mean, at all. I mean, I don't really feel like I've even done it. I mean, I feel like, I don't know, there's just this wave that happened and I'm just on it. And I don't know, I've never really had any kind of, it's difficult. I feel like I'm going to feel the personal connection in like 20 years from now. I mean, I feel like now it's just all part of the same thing. I mean, I was kind of embarrassed when I did it because I messed it up and I like stood on my own handprint and stuff.